life, Satan tried to get me. Walking my shoes, devil trying to fit me. But he don't know I got the power fit me. Nah, he don't know I got that power. All my life, Satan tried to get me. Walking my shoes, devil trying to fit me. But he don't know I got the power fit me. Nah, he don't know I walk the power fit me. Let me have a seat.
Again, here I am. This is your man Brian Williams, aka H-Rap B, coming at you live and direct. Thank you for tuning in. We are no longer on Facebook. Shout out to Facebook. Y'all did it again. Good. You forced me off, and I'm glad. I didn't want to be there anyway. This is your man H-Rap B, coming at you live and direct. This is Build and Destroy on Into the Bench Media. Thank you for tuning in. If you're tuning in on my website, hit that like and save, hit that share. If you're tuning in on YouTube, do the same. I didn't add Twitter today, so oh well. And later on, you'll be able to catch me on Fanbase. That is Fanbase, Fanbase. It's Isaac Hayes III. Yes, that Isaac Hayes. His son, he's Isaac Hayes Jr. Isaac Hayes' son has a Fanbase social media platform that if you are a creative person, you can earn money on there as well. I've earned money already, only been there on a short period of time. So please tune in. Thank you for tuning in. Tell a friend, hit that like, hit that share. Thank you for I am speaking way too fast. Have someone tell a friend and tune in. Thank you. It is important. I'm here to share and disseminate information about our community, uplifting our community, and doing everything I can to build up the community and destroy the lies and propaganda that surround our community. This evening's episode is entitled Jail is no longer just a physical situation. It has always been a mental situation as well. Jail and being incarcerated is not solely your physical being entrapped into a house of restitution. Don't just believe it's that. It's just like with slavery. At this point, the prison industrial system has been inducted as as Michelle Alexander said, this is the new Jim Crow. Mass incarceration is funded in this country. You're talking about an institution to whereas people are being housed and being paid. The people who are in control of this thing on the stock market, which means they're making money. It's a profitable situation. They're still profiting off our bodies. You're talking about $40,000 in some states, $40,000 per man, per inmate. Just imagine that. Some people don't even make $40,000, and you're housing a dude in an 8x10 box, and feeding him 3 times a day, and making him work, making license plates, being a customer service assistant, and other things that are benefiting the outside world. And he's being housed in that, and he's being paid pennies on the dollar, not dollars per hour, pennies on the dollar. That's what he's being paid, and these companies have a very insane margin of power, a margin of profit, and they are doing this at your behest. Now it's time for us to wake up and change these things. These are the things that I want to talk about today. I'm going to show you a video of how we've been under duress and what we, basically, I'm going to provide information to you. So you and your friend group and your community group, your church or what have you, just even you and your significant other can have conversations about this. Show your children so they can be aware of the tyranny that we've been facing for the last 400 years. A lot of people perceive me as a person who is filled with hate. That I am not. I will never, again, as I stated last week, I would never address it again, but it's just a situation to where as I show you these videos, you can perceive them anyway. You can receive it anywhere you want to. I'm going to give you this information, process it as you see fit, and we'll move forward every week without fail. This week, I'm going to announce it right now. I usually do Rapping with H-Rap on Thursday. I have a previous obligation that will be postponed. So as of next week, I will have another guest on Rapping with H-Rap. We will continue that mission as well as continue that mission of the forecast. But back to this topic at hand. Prison is no longer just a situation to where as your body is being trapped. Now they're trapping our minds. And how are they trapping our minds? Because we're being constantly inundated with a whole bunch of propagandized news and the nonsense that we call social media, traditional media, and other foolishness that goes on with the world. We also put ourselves in situations to whereas we're always talking about, we're bragging about certain things. We're talking about certain things that do not benefit us in any way, shape, form, or fashion. For the last 25 to 30 years, we've been talking about one Dr. William Cosby and his sexual exploits, which they did hurt people. We're not dismissing that. But what we are doing is looking at the situation to whereas, how is that destroying our community as a whole? He's destroying his life. He does not represent every Black male in the United States of America or even abroad. That's his issue. We shouldn't be inundated with that. We should be truly invested in that. We should be taking time out of our busy work schedules, raising our children, loving our significant others, helping our friends and neighbors to discuss one Dr. William Cosby and his potential sexual exploits and what he has and has not done in the past. We need to leave that alone. Up until today, we can fast forward to William Cosby, the O.J. Simpson, Dr. Cosby, O.J. Simpson, several other people, and Michael Jackson, and then even up to today's Sean P. Diddy Combs. Why are we inundating ourselves with this? Why are we flooding this into our psyche? And it is pushing us to the wayside. This is why you have a legion of Black men who are starting to lean towards oppression as an answer. And what do I mean by oppression? You have a staunch, openly unapologetic, in my perception, racist running for president, and you have people literally going because they heard his name mentioned in rap songs. Oh man, he's my type of guy. How could a guy who openly and clearly says he wants nothing to do with you and he has no respect for you whatsoever, he condescends to you, he speaks to you in a negative tone, and he has a dismissive feature about his rhetoric when he's speaking about our community, but you think that's swag. Well, if you are I didn't want to say it, but I'm not going to say it. If you are a person who's not loving himself or herself, then you will see the power in a man who has failed in business over several opportunities. He has filed bankruptcy 7 times. He has been sued by the Department of Justice for discrimination, saying that Black people are innately lazy, and because they're lazy, he does not want them even giving him money. He had properties. He ruled out the ability for Black people to even give him money by paying rent on a monthly basis. So that is the person that you see, because you have people like Smith and Wesson talking about the Black Trump. You have people like Raekwon Chef and the Wu-Tang Clan mentioning Trump and things of that nature. All they were talking about is rich and powerful. They were not talking about the individual. They were using him as a synonym for power, not a synonym for intelligence, not a synonym for peace, not a synonym for uplifting our people, just a synonym for power. And we have people following up behind him, people that are rappers, entertainers, and things of that nature. This is why I made the statement, hey, we need to stop listening to these people. We need to stop listening to political scientists. We need to start doing our own investigative reporting. We need to start doing the due diligence to make sure we are in a better place and not just us. Most people, the demographics, as I look at the demographics on my program, most people who are watching me are between the age of 35 and up to 70 years old. Therefore, we are living for our grandchildren's grandchildren. You know, like if you are a spiritual person in this community, you are looking at a situation to whereas you've heard this once or a dozen times. We are living off our grandparents' prayers. Now it's time for us to have our grandchildren live off our prayers and our hard work and the backbreaking, painstaking work that it comes for liberation. And this is why I'm here today. We are in a situation to whereas if we don't start having these conversations, if we don't start pointing out the flaws and the character issues, we will continue to repeat the cycle over and over again. If you're looking for the next Black leader to walk into the room and he gonna stand up and he have a invigorating speech and mobilizing everybody like one great Dr. Martin Luther King and organize people like one El-Malik Shabazz, aka Malcolm X, it's not gonna happen. That will be you. You can organize your home, and then you can organize your neighborhood, then you can organize your community, and then you can organize your city, and then you can organize your county. Basically, organize the people that look like you, act like you, think like you, and live near you, because without the people who are around you, you will have nothing. To quote the great Kwame Ture, formerly known as Stokely Carmichael, George Washington in Valley Forge by himself gets nothing accomplished. Martin Luther King standing in Birmingham, Alabama, standing by himself, he will be lynched. But with a group of us, we can get things done. I am not recruiting every Black person in the United States of America, because some of us are doing well and they perceive this whole conversation that I'm having with you as an exercise in futility because, hey, I've made it, and what do I have to do with that? But if you've made it and your brother's struggling, you haven't made it. If you've made it and everybody around you is successful, then you've made it. This is why we need to get rid of this terminology that was introduced to us after the murder of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in the mid-70s, called rugged individualism. There's no such thing as an individual succeeding. People don't beat systems, organizations beat systems, and you must adapt that to the way you think. Otherwise, you're going to continue to struggle. Again, if you're 35, 40, 50, 60 years old, you know what? The world won't change fast enough for you to benefit from it. But somebody laid down their life. Someone did everything that they needed to do so you can be in the position that you're in. And this is why you must start to activate yourself and engage. Don't just engage with your friends with mindless fodder, argue with your significant other and say what they should or should not be doing. How could you support this and how could you support that? Because your imminent danger is not Donald J. Trump. The imminent danger is not people like Mitt Romney and these other guys. These people in Congress are not your imminent danger. It's the governors, it's the state reps, it's the state senators, it is the people who are on the chambers of commerce, the city council, school council. These people will affect you far more egregious. Their actions will be far more egregious than anybody in the history of the federal government can do, because the federal government has only the power that you allow it to have. This is why, if you're thinking Donald Trump gave us, you have people like this young lady, Sexy Red. She's 25, 30 years old. She's not educated, and she's a definite example of what I'm talking about. Her ignorance is paramount. It is in your face every day, all day. And this is why we suffer. We suffer because we don't know. So what we're going to do is, again, I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say it every week. We're going to download that 5 Cause app. We're going to start thinking about being civically minded. We will stop arguing with each other and start having conversations. Even if you don't know, we're going to stop freeballing and just pulling stuff out of the cracks of our behinds and showing it to people and telling people it's a bar of gold, because it's not. It's trash. What we're going to do is educate ourselves on what's going on and how we can fix these things. A little later in the program, I will tell you about how things had come to pass. We're talking about 105 and 104 years ago. If our people in our community and other disenfranchised communities can do things 105, 104 years ago, that's what you can do now with even more power, more access, and more information. These people were doing things amongst themselves. We're going to get rid of this cartoonish mentality of, hey, I don't know what else I'm going to do. It can't be done because we don't trust each other. Again, you're turning on the television and you're listening to media and you're watching social media, and these people who don't like you, don't care about you, are not doing everything they can to destroy you. You're allowing them to lead your every footsteps down the road of success. And what does that mean? You're walking into your own destruction. You can no longer do that. We're no longer going to do that. That way, we'll retain this information. Hopefully, you guys are taking notes. Hopefully, you go back and watch this several times. If you go to YouTube and hit that like button, hit that share, subscribe, so I can stop sending all these notifications. The thumbs getting tired. I'm being facetious, but I want you to understand this is where we need to be. We can no longer sit on the sidelines and wait. We can no longer do that. It's just not beneficial or advantageous to the advancement of our people. Period. No more complaining, no more making exceptions, no more making excuses. We must enter as a communal barter system, and then we must enter a communal system to whereas we're self-sufficient. We've done it before. We can do it again. It's not a situation to whereas we will be pigeonholed, because look, evil and greed go hand in hand. Evil and greed go hand in hand. And if you don't believe me, why do you think all the wicked and outrageous people are greedy? They go hand in hand. But one thing about greed in the capitalistic system is this: they will not do without. That's why if we start to galvanize and stop pointing fingers at others and making excuses, what we can do is come together, even in bite-sized pieces, 5, 6, 7 people at a time. And then that 7 turns into 17, and that 17 turns into 24, and that 24, and so on and so on and so on. We don't need all 60 million people in our community to do what we need to do. We need to do this in pockets. 10,000, 20,000, 100,000, maybe even 1 million people makes an insane difference, makes a greater dent in capitalism than you'll ever understand. For example, I'll give you this. How many times have you been in a corporate meeting and they say, hey, we earned $20 million last year. We're projecting 35. And then if they don't get to 35, they can get to 31, which is about a third of an improvement than they did the year before. What they'll say is we lost $4 million. They didn't lose anything. They just didn't get as much as they want. This is the half truths, and the truths are open and honest, an open faced lie to an honest listener. It's called propagandized foolishness. And this is what we must get away from. This is why you can't, all these children are insane. They only show you the malicious children. They only show you children operating in nefarious opportunities. And they don't show you the young men and women throughout our community that are getting accepted into institutions of higher learning. They don't show you at Illinois State, where my daughter graduated from, and other people I care about daughters graduating from. You don't go to UIC and you see multitude of our people graduating. University of Illinois, University of California, so forth and so on. How do you think all these Black women have all these degrees they continue to tell us about? This is the most educated. How is it that all our women are ignorant and having babies out of wedlock and doing nothing beneficial to the community, but they're the most educated women in the United States of America? All I do is hear about how our women are no good, and then you tell me that then we find out the Black woman is the most educated woman in the history of the country. All I need to say with that is,
you better shut your white mouth. I'm not kidding you.
And that's all I mean. That's how I feel. I'm not gonna, I don't deal with nonsense like that. And I need you to stop listening to these fools as well. This is not a situation that is insurmountable. This is not insurmountable. What you need to do is start thinking for yourself. If you're gonna participate in groupthink, the group needs to be thinking about how to improve the community, not about how to integrate and be a part of another community, because integration only allows you to be weaker. You integrate coffee with cream, it makes the coffee weaker. You integrate anything, it makes the original substance weaker. Am I anti-communal world community? No, I'm not. But guess what? Every community in the United States of America supports that community besides us. We eat Italian food. We eat Mexican food. We eat Chinese food. We eat other Asian foods. We eat Thai food. How many times have you go to your local neighborhood restaurant and see somebody from another culture in your restaurant? If any, not often or many. So why is it that we allow them to eat off two incomes, theirs and ours, and no one eats, and we don't eat off anyone? So we need to come together. We can make tacos. We can make pasta. We can make Thai food. We can make hibaritos. We can make chicken shawarma, that's Mediterranean, and so forth and so on. We can do the same thing that everybody else can do, and we can continue to move forward. If you just look at our simple things, like looking at our diets, why is our high blood pressure, diabetes, and things of that nature at an alarming rate? It's because we're eating other people's diet. Their diet is 100 years old, and it is consistent with their genetic makeup. Our diet, it comes from Europe, it comes from Asia, it comes from South America, it comes from the Caribbean, it comes from Norway and every other place in the world. This is why our body is rejected. Why don't we start paying attention to the people who look like us and how they eat? The people in the islands, they eat a lot of fruit, they eat this and they eat that, and it allows them to digest. This is why we must come together and identify. It's the reason that people in the South live a lot longer than the people in the North, because people in the South traditionally have a more farm-raised, a more natural, homeopathic way of living, and we live in this industrialized, processed food extravaganza called America, Northern America, and we think we're ahead of it. Think about these things. Before you jump out of the window and say what is, why don't you pay attention to what is not? Don't always look at the symptoms, crime, drug addiction, violence, and things of that nature. Those are just symptoms of a problem. What triggers those things? Lack of opportunity, lack of self-pride, lack of ownership. When you own things, you can continue to build things. When you build things, you give opportunities. When you give opportunities, you reduce the crime. You reduce the crime. You reduce the self-hate. You reduce the self-hate. You reduce the mayhem. Will all those things disappear? I doubt if they ever be gone. If you're a spiritual person, much like I am, if you're a believer in the Word of God and Jesus Christ, what you do is you understand that book has guided you through every situation humanly possible. Very beginning of the book, a brother killed another brother. That is crime, that is jealousy, that is hatred. Those are the same things that are permeating through the community as of this very moment. So those things are not going to disappear, but we can reduce them to the point where, as some people will always go right. I'm left-handed, so I ain't going to say go left. Some people will always go right. And if they don't go along the path that we think we should, your moral compass is off. What you do is make sure that those people understand that they're on the wrong path. And all you can do is hope they return to the path. At some point they will, whether it be in the middle of their life, the end of their life, or they may just get right back on the path. But the path must be clear. We are not on a clear path as the Black people in the United States of America, descendants of people who were captured and enslaved and forced into 160 years in indentured servitude, or 200 years in indentured servitude and 161 years of so-called freedom. So if you are not prepared to move and shake and do what you want to do and do what you have to do and do what you need to do, I need you to be quiet. With that being said, I'm going to show you in this next video a opportunity. Well, basically, it's not even an opportunity. I'm going to give you a situation to whereas this is what we're headed toward. If you don't believe we're headed towards these things, I understand, because you've been taught and you've been bamboozled into believing things are not the same. Things have not improved. So what we're going to do is make sure we get things in a situation, and you can see what will happen in the event that we do not galvanize as a community and move forward. I'm HRB. I'll be back shortly.
Throughout American history, the destructive power of flooding has disproportionately impacted Black communities. Homes have been destroyed, livelihoods lost, and lives shattered in the wake of repeated flooding events. But it's not just the natural disaster that threatens these neighborhoods. It's the insidious hand of systemic racism that wages a war against them. From being denied access to proper infrastructure and funding, to facing discrimination at every turn, the residents of Black towns across America have been left vulnerable to flooding time and time again. With each devastating flood that strikes, it becomes clearer that this is not just a natural disaster. It's a man-made crisis born out of the centuries-old legacy of racism and inequality. Welcome to yet another great video regarding the history of Black people. Here, we highlight the historical existence of Black people and their contributions to global civilization. In today's video, we will delve into the disturbing history of flooding in Black towns, uncover the injustices and atrocities that have been committed against these communities, and examine the ongoing fight for justice and equality in the face of this ongoing crisis. In the 19th and 20th centuries, the construction of dams and levees along rivers and other water bodies was meant to protect American towns and cities from flooding. However, these engineering projects were not always implemented fairly. They frequently disregarded the interests of minority populations, especially Black residents, and resulted in the flooding of their towns. Black towns are communities in the United States that have a predominantly African American population and were formed in the late 19th and early 20th century. These towns were established by Black residents who sought freedom and autonomy from white oppression after the Civil War. Many of these towns were founded after the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863, with freed slaves seeking a place to live away from white-dominated areas. Black towns also served as refugees for African Americans fleeing violence, racism, and discrimination in other parts of the country. Some of the notable Black towns among the hundreds of them in the United States include Nicodemus, Kansas; Eatonville, Florida; Zion, Illinois; Mound Bayou, Mississippi; Boley, Oklahoma; Langston, Oklahoma; Allensworth, California; Hobson City, Alabama; Princeville, North Carolina; Tuskegee, Alabama; Hillside, Illinois; Timbuktu, New Jersey; Africatown, Alabama; Freemanville, Texas; Buxton, Iowa; Beachville, Nova Scotia; Gouldtown, New Jersey; Deerfield, Colorado; Lincolnville, Maine; Nicodemus, Ohio; Nicodemus, Kansas. The flood of Nicodemus, Kansas occurred in June 1935, when the river swelled to 62 feet. This event caused extreme damage to the western region of the state of Kansas. Nicodemus Township was the most affected area. Many people lost their homes, farms, and businesses. The damages were estimated to be about $200,000, and more than 500 people were forced to abandon their living quarters. There were no deaths associated with the flood of Nicodemus, but many people lost their possessions and livelihoods. It was one of the worst floods in the history of the area, and it took years to rebuild and recover from the loss. Today, the town of Nicodemus, Kansas, is a National Historic Landmark and a testament to the resilience of the people who live there. Eatonville, Florida. In September 2004, the city of Eatonville, Florida, experienced severe flooding due to Hurricane Jeanne. The hurricane caused widespread damage throughout Florida, with Eatonville being hit particularly hard. Many homes and businesses in Eatonville were inundated with water, and some were destroyed. The floodwaters reached as high as 5 feet in some areas, causing extensive damage to infrastructure and property. Zion, Illinois. The flood of Zion, Illinois occurred in July 2017 when the Des Plaines River overflowed due to heavy rainfall. This flood affected several communities in Lake County, including Zion. It was the second most severe flood in the area's history, with water levels reaching over 11 feet above flood stage. The flood caused extensive damage to homes and businesses in the area, with many residents having to evacuate the affected areas. The city of Zion also declared a state of emergency due to the flood. The floodwaters flooded several major roads leading up to the city, making transportation difficult. The flooding damaged more than 200 homes and caused over $13 million in damages. Despite the significant damage that the flood caused, no injuries or fatalities were reported in the Zion area. One of the primary reasons why black towns were flooded is rooted in racism. Some of these towns were developed on unwanted land and were considered dispensable by the white authorities responsible for determining water management policies. In addition, the areas that were seen as more valuable and important were given priority in terms of resources and flood protection. The Great Mississippi River Flood, however, belongs under a separate category because of its long-lasting effects. Nearly 640,000 people were forced to leave their homes after the storm overwhelmed 16 million acres of land in states from Illinois to Louisiana. The Mississippi River widened to an 80-mile width in Vicksburg. Like many other floods in American history, the Great Mississippi River Flood had a disproportionately negative impact on African Americans. According to estimates, more than 500,000 of those who lost their homes were black. Many African Americans were forced out of their neighborhoods and places of employment. The railroads and plantations affected by the flood were concerned that their workers, who were evicted from their homes and lost everything, would never return. African American families made up 75% of the population and 95% of the agricultural workforce in the Delta lowlands. Many of these workers were ensnared in systems that kept them permanently enslaved to the estates, which was even worse than sharecropping. Over 200,000 African Americans were directed into a network of refugee camps established by the American Red Cross, in collaboration with the railways and plantations to keep refugees close by. The camps ranged from tolerable to appalling in terms of size and living conditions. The camps with the most satisfactory conditions were those where the local colored people had the opportunity to assist in the administration of affairs, according to the final report of the Colored Advisory Commission, established to work alongside the American Red Cross and the President's Committee on Relief Work in the Mississippi Valley flood disaster of 1927. The camps in Baton Rouge, Lafayette, and Natchez were deemed to be particularly good. People of color hardly participated in the activities of the colored refugees in the camps at Greenville, Sicily Island, and Opelousas. At other camps, like the one in Greenville, Mississippi, National Guard soldiers barred visitors from outside the camp as well as refugees from leaving. According to the Colored Advisory Commission, black inmates at Greenville claimed that white convicts were allowed to come and go without passes at pleasure. but that colored inmates were not afforded the same privileges. Additionally, allegations of unfair labor practices, discrimination in food distribution, and physical treatment of individuals of color were made. Additionally, the Guard made an unofficial commitment to restore refugees to their places of employment following the disaster. The Great Migration would be hastened by thousands of African Americans eventually leaving these refugee camps or avoiding them entirely in search of new lives in northern towns and cities. The African American communities in southeast Louisiana sustained the heaviest damage from Hurricane Katrina in 2005. Southwest Houston, where 49% of the population is non-white, was the area in Texas that sustained the highest flood damage during Hurricane Harvey in 2017. 4 of the 7 Katrina-related zip codes with the most expensive flood damage had populations that were at least 75% Black, according to official statistics. The flooding of Black towns has left an indelible mark on the lives of its residents. Besides the loss of property and infrastructure damage, people have lost their loved ones and endured trauma that lasts for generations. The floods also led to social and economic instability, as residents' homes and businesses were destroyed. This history of flooding Black towns is more than just a disturbing tale. It's a reminder of the ongoing struggle for environmental justice and fairness in our society. These communities have faced immense challenges and obstacles in their fight against devastating floods, and they deserve our attention and support. It's time we recognize and account for the systemic inequalities that have contributed to this history and take action to ensure a better future for all. Let us remember their stories, honor their resilience, and work towards a more equitable and just world. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more,
Shaman H Rap, I'm back. Thank you for tuning in. Hit that like, hit that share, tell a friend to tune in. As you saw, this is not just me being angry with a group of people or pigmentation of skin. This is a system that has been set in place that has led us to destruction at every turn, every whim, and every eon that we have participated in this Western Hemisphere. I'm not trying to say that I hate anybody. I'm not trying to say that we should separate and never be friends with anybody. What I am trying to say is this: we're in a situation to where if we don't come together, we will continue to suffer. If you notice, at some point, as recently as 2017, 75% of the people who are affected by natural disasters look like us. That's not happenstance. That's not coincidence. You're looking at a situation to where as we're being put in poor areas, and then when those as the Army Corps engineers construct these dams, construct these levees, can put us in situations to whereas it would be advantageous to them to put us in these low feeding institutions and areas, that we will suffer the consequences of that. The way you combat that is, again, to participate with your civic duties. You must get involved in city affairs. You can no longer be in situations to whereas the police can feel comfortable assaulting you because all you're going to do is complain left and right. You need to be complaining upward. You need to be attaching yourself to a church. You need to be attaching yourself to a mosque. You need to be attaching yourself to a Jehovah Witness hall. You need to be attaching yourself to a synagogue or any other institution, the NAACP, the Urban League. These are voluntary institutions. So if you can walk in the door and volunteer, you can galvanize and use their credentials, and you can use their might behind you to get your community fixed. These are not fights that we need to have alone. We continue to complain to these politicians, say what they're not doing, but at the end of the day, as it states, charity starts at home. So if you're not willing to do what you need to do, we need to just pack up, fold up, and then just get the change ready, the mental change. Well, they're already there. We need to just adhere to what they want and just be happy getting tools and fuse and crumbs from their table. We live in a country in which, as I will state shortly, we live in a country in which people who had less than us were far more advanced than us. You have people who 10 years after the Emancipation Proclamation, when they're previous to that, it was illegal to read, where you had a 1 to 4% of the population that looked like us, that were that were literate, they could read English. Because see, what we have to always understand is when you say someone is illiterate, and you're in a country where they're not speaking their native tongue, all you're saying is they can't read your language. That does not mean that they're unintelligent. It does not mean that they don't have the ability to learn. That means whatever the traditional language is in that land, they are not up to par with that way of learning. Everyone learns in their way. Everyone has their capacity of learning. And as a great man once told me, God made no blanks. Everybody in this world is good at something. No matter what it is, it's up to you to find out what you're great at. Once you find out what you're great at, then you'll be able to excel and prevail and never be held back in any way, shape, form, or fashion. With that being said, it is this conversation that is being had for the last 54 years. The reason I say 54 years is because I've been living that long. The reason I'm saying that is this. We always brag about how talented we are. We always brag about what we've done in the past. We always brag about the monies that are earned and have that circulate in and out of our communities. We bring $7 trillion into the United States. We have the spending power of $7 trillion in the United States of America. Sounds good. It sounds excellent. You know, we created all this stuff. Another colloquialism that sounds great. We're creative. We're creative and we spend money and we make money. And if it wasn't for us, we create cool. You know, anytime we get behind something, next thing you know, people jump on top of it and we allow people to strip us of the power of that entity, and we lose and suffer for it. So what good is that? This is why I say we need to stop talking about these celebrities. We need to stop talking about these athletes. We need to stop talking about these inventors. We need to stop talking about all these things that are outside our purview and not helping us at this moment. If you're going to talk about those things, all you have to do is talk about things about how you can improve. Let's go. Let's talk about Sean Combs. Let's talk about Bill Cosby. Let's talk about Oprah Winfrey. Let's talk about Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, so forth and so on. Issa Rae, Sister Issa Rae, Sister Taraji P. Henson, and the Sister Monique. And let's add Tyler Perry to that mix. These are some of the people, Ryan Coogler as well. These are some of the most successful people in the entertainment in regards to movie world in the United States of America that look like us. And they complain that they're not, well, some of them, Tyler Perry doesn't. Some of them are complaining that they don't have the means to, they're not getting paid their worth. I know my worth. I'm being cheated. Well, you need to be more like a brother by the name of Michael Jai White. You need to be more like Tyler Perry. Oprah Winfrey, she has to finance it. Eddie Murphy, he has to finance it. Why is it that they're not financing their own projects? We as a community consistently get behind those projects. If you doubt it, why is Tyler Perry a billionaire? Tyler Perry, 20 years ago, was living in his car. At this 25 years ago, he was living in his car, going broke. Watch his documentary on Amazon Prime. You'll see he was an abused guy who still suffer from that abuse, and he created a lane for himself. And guess what? We made him a billionaire. Hollywood didn't know who Tyler Perry was. All of a sudden, he started making movies, and he became insanely rich. Guess what? Guess what we call that? That's called a blueprint. So if you're going to sit around and complain and piss and moan about what you don't have, why don't you get together and leave your ego at home? This is what you do. All you celebrities and movie stars and things of that nature don't feel like you being successful. I'm going to need you to go look at your children. I'm going to need you to go look at your mother. I need you to go look at your relatives and see how they're living. And then at that point, the complaints will stop. Once the complaints stop, you'll come up with a solution. Why are you asking other people to fix your problems? It is insane to ask an abuser to fix your problem. Movie stars, television stars, and other celebrities. That is insane. Why would they do it? I'm going to take it to a perspective of a woman. If you think the dude who has been abusing you and beating you and disrespecting you and denigrating you will also help you graduate from college and uplift yourself and put yourself in a better position so you can leave him alone, you are outside your mind. And that's what they're asking these people to do. But they have the ability, they have the finances, and they have things at their disposal that they can do and make themselves rich as possible. But they refuse to do it because they want to live off the breast of the power structure. The dominant culture will continue to put you in a position to whereas you need them. They won't do it. But you want to brag to me about how much money is coming in our community. It's never been about how much money comes through your community. It's about how much money stays in your community. Now, when you talk about people like musicians, you got Puff Daddy, R. Kelly, Usher Raymond. I know he ain't Usher Raymond no more, but that's where I knew him from. Usher Raymond, Usher, whatever his name is, R. Kelly, P. Diddy, and other people in the music industry. Mary J. Blige. These people have been insanely rich for decades. They didn't do like Duke Ellington. They didn't do like Cab Calloway. They didn't do like Nyland Hampton and book their own shows and book their own tours because they got ego driven. They always align themselves with people who were cheating other black stars like Clive Davis, who, from my purview and unsung, it clearly I saw papers with my eyes with Clive Davis and his lawyers doctored papers from George Clinton. George Clinton is just getting paid for all those great songs from the 70s in the 2010s, which is insane. But you don't need those people. There's enough power, there's enough equity, there's enough stick-to-itiveness in our community that we don't need these people. When you have people like when you have people, the biggest stars in all of sports in the last 25, actually, as a matter of fact, the last 40 years, Irvin Magic Johnson, Michael Jeffrey Jordan, Shaquille O'Neal, Kobe Bean Bryant, and one LeBron James. Why are they not playing in a league of their own? See, if you think this is a pipe dream, all I will say to you is this. If you think this is a pipe dream and say, oh man, H-Rap, that can't happen. What about this? If anybody heard of this system called the United, it's a system of movies, a production company called the United Artists. Yeah, I'm sure you have. If you heard of that, you know what the United Artists is. Charlie Chapman, W.D. Griffith, and I can't think of the other dude name. I think her name is Mary Pitchford. They got together and created United Artists, and they still making movies today. Guess when they did that? In 1920, because the big studios in Hollywood just wouldn't adhere to what they wanted. So they created United Artists. What happened? We created United Artists. Rube Foster in 1919 created the Negro Leagues. You think that they integrated the Major League Baseball for earlier this month for Jackie Robinson? No, they did not. They did that because the Negro Leagues were a more entertaining and more engaging brand of baseball. And they did it because they had to stop plucking people from the Negro Leagues, because if you pluck the stars out of the Negro Leagues and you bring them over here to us, they would adhere to us. Then the Negro Leagues would dissipate. And guess what? Just so happened a few years later, Hank Aaron and Willie Mays, two of the greatest baseball players in the history of MLB, they left and the Negro Leagues folded. Again, we continue to look for acceptance by the dominant society, and this is why we struggle. See, the tools of success are right here in our hands. They are right here in our hands, but we continue to do this. We continue to turn over our hands and start doing our hands like this. Why are we doing that? We can just use our hands as tools, as things that carry tools, instead of use our hands as cups to beg for acceptance and acknowledgement from the white power structure that we call America. We don't need anybody. You want to tell me about $7 trillion? Do you understand when everybody start bragging about how much money circulates through what goes through the Black community? And I do say through the Black community. The reason I say through the Black community is because it needs to stop. We continue to believe in these tropes. We don't support each other. Yes, we do. Yes, we do. But what we do is say, I don't want to do this, and I'm going to ask someone for a job. Nothing wrong with working for anyone. If you're an electrician, if you're a computer scientist or anything of that nature, there's nothing wrong with working for anybody. If you're a garbage man, there's nothing wrong with working for the city. But we all cannot go work for someone else and then complain that they're mistreating us. Anytime you must teach people how to treat you. Anytime someone mistreats you, it's because you've allowed them to do it. And when you allow somebody to mistreat you and deal with you unjustly, they will continue to do it. They will kick you if you allow them to kick you. They will stab you if you allow them to stab you. They will destroy you if you allow them to destroy you. And that's what we're complaining about. All we have to do, instead of buying Air Jordans, instead of buying Adidas, instead of buying Nike, instead of buying iPads and things of that nature, what we can do is this. I'll use my city, for example. City of Chicago, Illinois. Isaiah Thomas, Mark Aguirre, Eddie Johnson. Those three people from the west side of Chicago. You have Tim Hardaway, Derrick Rose, Anthony Davis. They're from one of them from the west side, the other one's from the south side of Chicago. That's 6 people. And they're more than just those 6. Why are we not demanding? Because look, Derrick Rose got an Adidas contract because we in Chicago love Derrick Rose. He was a son of the city. He was a prince of the city. And we got behind and started buying Adidas. And Adidas gave him a $200 million contract. Just so happens that contract expired this year. And Derrick Rose said, I'm out. I'm no longer playing in the National Basketball Association. So with that being said, why didn't we just demand that these guys that we're supporting them, they're getting hundreds of millions of dollars because we're buying their product? Why don't those guys get together and create a grocery chain store? We don't need to go to Food for Less. We don't need to go to Fair Play. We don't need to go to Jewel. We don't need to go to Whole Food, and we don't need to go to Mariano's if they come together and create a blockchain of grocery stores right here in Chicago, kind of like Piggly Wiggly in the South, kind of like Ralph's in LA, and we can have a chain of those. At that point, you're doing two things. You're making money into perpetuity for yourself because people, as long as people on this planet, they are going to need to eat. And if you finance this, it creates a barter system. These big businesses make the food. We bring it into our stores. Our community gets it. And then guess what? That's the first thing. The second thing is we're creating points of employment for our people. You're doing it that way. Now, guess what? The third thing is you're reducing crime because the reduction of crime gives opportunity, creates a reduction of crime, and then it creates a sense of self-worth. You also have these same gentlemen who we are making rich anyway. Now they're doubly rich. You have those guys invest in developing low-income housing on the South and West Side, South Side, and Inglewood, and in Roseland, and things like that, and the West Side, and on 16th Street, what do they call West Lawndale, and South Lawndale, and North Lawndale. You rehab these institutions, you rehab these communities, and use your money to do it. And then guess what? It's money into perpetuity. Now you've created a sense of pride because we love our athletes, we love our entertainers. So now you got people entertaining, you got people in sports. And then what does that do? That induces people to go into city government. And guess what? We have funded those people who are in those programs, much like one Cam Newton. That's why all those athletes come back and give to him, because he's creating opportunities for these young men, and they're going to the pros and they're coming back to help him. We do the same thing in our communities. That's why we go to see the Eddie Murphy movie. That's why we go see Denzel Washington. That's why we go see his son, John David Washington, and so forth and so on. If you do those things, at that point, they'll be paid into perpetuity. You'll have a better community, and you'll create pride and self-love. That's what's missing. It's a lot less self-love. These are the things. This is how you fix these communities. We don't sit around and ask people who have oppressed us for 400 years to help us. That's insane. We don't ask rapists to say, man, let me get a towel. So, you know, you just raped me, but let me get something to wash up with so I can have some pride. No. The people who get the rapists off you, those are the people who are going to help you. Who's going to stop someone from taking advantage of you and the people in your community? It doesn't take a lot. All we have to do is find pockets of people who think like us. And just like you have a group of people who, if you're a Chicago Bears fan, or you're a Chicago Cub fan, or if you're a Chicago White Sox fan, or you're a Chicago Bulls fan, you don't hang out with Green Bay Packer fans. You don't hang out with Indiana Pacer fans and so forth and so on. You hang out with the people who have the same interests as you. We seem to believe that we'll be in a better situation if we hang out with people who are not aligned with our best interests. We have to look. What's going on in Gaza? It's insane. What's going on in the Ukraine? It's insane. But you know what's even more insane? What's going on in Haiti and what's going on in Africa. So why are we not focusing on those entities? See, when you focus, why would we focus on those things? The reason you will focus on those things is because that gives you an option. Options is what make the world go around. If you have options in this world, what happens is those options afford you opportunities, and that's what's missing in our community. Guess what? Just a little fun fact. There are people of affluence all over the world that will pay you, the high school graduate right here in Illinois, or right here in America, high school graduate, go get your child a passport, and they can go teach affluent children English. And they're not going to be teaching them the King's English by the Queen's taste. No. But what they are going to do is sit in a house making $85,000, $90,000 a year, just having conversation with young, rich kids who are attempting to learn English. And you can get paid for that. And these are the issues that these are the things that are not brought to our attention. Our children want to be professional athletes. Do you want to be a professional athlete, or do you want to be on TV with the NBA? I know plenty of professional athletes that have made hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars, and you don't even know them, and they're walking past you every day. And at the same time, what's happening? They're not on TV, but they're set for life after age 38. And what we have to do is create a system in which those young men and young women, because they're track stars, they're basketball players, they're baseball players, they're soccer players, and they can come back here to your community and rehab and rebuild it and make us a strong worldwide community. We don't have to just play this game in the United States of America. We play this game worldwide. If you have a passport, that is a key of entry to any place in the world. Guess what? They're not treating you right in America. You can go over to Nigeria. You can have your cousin over here in America ship you goods and services over there. And now you have the system of exchange, and you're making money hand over fist with buying cheap, and you're selling over there. That's what they want. You have what they want. You have what they need. I have what you want, and I will become rich. And I don't have to fleece the people who look like me. People, the tools of success are in your hands. What you have to do is begin to understand that those tools are at your disposal, and it's up to you to use them. With that being said, just like this program here, I could just be angling and try to get on ESPN or one of these major networks. Shout out to Rob Parker with the Sports Rap in Detroit. He's trying to make it nationwide. Me and Rob, we communicate on a regular basis. Soon, Rob will be on Rapping with H-Rap. So what I want you to understand is the tools of success are right at our hands. There, it would behoove us not to take advantage of them. Stop asking, start doing, start believing, start seeing, educate yourself. Education is not in a school. Education is when you learn to enhance. That's all education is. With that being said, I want to thank each and every one of you for hitting that like, hitting that share, tell a friend and tell a friend. I want to thank everybody in the chat room. Salute. Y'all know I don't call out names. I know a lot of people who support me. They used to people calling out names. I ain't calling out no name because guess what? I'm trying to get to the point where it's too many people to call out their name. With that being said, salute to the Ghetto Boys, Tariq Nasheed, Nori, Talib Kweli, Sway Calloway, Roland Martin, Heather B, Clay Kane, Reed Daniel Fayers, Roland Martin, Dr. Greg Carr, and the dean of this Black Talk Landia thing that I'm a part of the mission, Miss Karen Hunter. It's been good. Y'all know it's Tuesday. It's time for me to talk to Jesus for about an hour. And after that, I'm going to do this study, and I'm out of here. 2 fingers, 1 word. Y'all already know Big Mo going to take us out of here. It's always dope. Y'all didn't even know. Some of y'all who know Mo, they ain't know that was Mo. 2 fingers, 1 word.
We lust for that cheese, we lose sleep, dreams of that cream. We killing our teens, they dying for this American dream. Them government schemes, they turning us to hustlers and fiends. We hustling trees, them politicians smuggling green. Chasing that cheese, got everybody stressed in the streets. Pardon me for speaking freely, let it breathe. Evangelists preach the congregations out of their seats. They writing them checks for ties, now it's people can't eat. She stripping for change for school, now she giving them brains. She used to that loot, she earning, now she giving them strain. He new to this game, but hungry, so he cooking his cane. He getting that paper, but then they gave him 2 to the brain. It's rules to this game, but hustlers never hustle for fame. The spirit of greed is grimy, so we struggle to change. They put us in chains to take away our African names. But if we submissive and don't resist, then who do we blame? It's all a game, man. These Europeans thinking they claim, and you a victim of their game plan. You thinking they ain't, you thinking they saints. Remember all them niggas they hang? Killed our women and our children, all our leaders is slain. They gave us Obama, but that nigga was hoping for change. But Zimmerman is killing niggas and he free. Shit is crazy, babies having these babies and getting checked. But keep the child from they pop to rip his heart out his chest. Our rappers was leaders and now they in the booth in the dress. Spitting bullshit and making more but giving us less. They taking our sound and changing ours, dumbing it down. They taking our jobs and homes and they shutting us out. They taking our kids because it ain't a man in the house. They locking us down, but soon they gon' be wiping us out. They told our women they was too independent to need a man. They told our brother he was too insignificant to advance. It's all a game, man. These Europeans staking they claim. And you a victim of their game plan. You thinking they ain't, you thinking they saints. Remember all them niggas they hang? Killed our women and our children, all our leaders is slain. It's all a game. We lust for that cheese. We